In today's session, I talked about the point of account management. I think there are moments in time where we have to reflect on our role within the industry. There is so much change going on. I think whether you look at the FTSE 100, whether you look at how clients are feeling under enormous pressure with technology and new advances in communications and communications channels out there, what is absolutely inevitable within agencies, particularly in our function, that things need to change. And I think whilst I have a huge amount of confidence in the role, inevitably the skills we have to learn, the skills we have to apply have to include distribution of media, experience planning, technology, social, advertising. It's a much broader landscape. So it is challenging, it's fast-paced, it's 24/7, and my strong advice is, to embrace that change. It is what business is at the moment, and I think it creates huge opportunity for people who like change, who like innovation, to really step up and be leaders. And I gave some quite personal advice, because obviously in these things, science is by no means anywhere near what we do as a business. So it's very sort of opinions quite strongly held about what account management needs to do. And I think very simply, very importantly, you need to be strategic, which is, don't be a planner, but do be strategic about how you manage business, how you act with your clients, who you put on your particular briefs, and how you solve problems. Think about the outcomes rather than just the day-to-day managing of stuff through the system. If you're just in that operational mold, I don't think it is enough anymore. Project management, producers, everything else, the way the industry and the specialisms of the industry don't allow for that to be what you do. Just getting things done is no longer enough. You have to get things done in a way that is strategic. I talked a bit about partnership. I love that word. It basically means you have to have equity shares in the success of the other, whether it's the people within your agency, your creatives, designers, planners, producers, or whether it is your client. Do you know enough about their business to be genuinely a partner, and be a genuinely objective partner? I don't think this is about a business about client service so much as a business where your opinion and your point of view and your expertise is deployed in a way that is helpful to your clients. Don't become your client. I wrote a few things down. I think making sure you create the conditions for greatness in the agency. I think that's being commercial. That is making sure you know that the right briefs come into the agency. You don't try and be everything to everyone. This whole thing about complete integration in one agency, I think, is a bit of a fallacy. So make sure you know what your agency's expertise is, what they're best at, what your people care about, and how you make money before you accept a brief. And more on a softer note, I think create the ambience. I talked about Mick Jagger and how he many years ago put an advert out for a £70,000 ambience manager. And to some extent, great suits just do that. They create the atmosphere for clients and agency people to thrive and do brilliant work. I also talked about being responsible, the ultimate producer, David Putnam, being a reference point. But how he went from account management to running great studios. I think there's lots of reference points about the potential for great account management in that narrative. I talked a lot about leadership, because I think a lot is said, and my personal reference point for leadership is the Jim Collins Level 5 leadership, which is about humility and fierce resolve. And I think if you look at great leaders who are succeeding now, whether it's Carolyn McCall or other FTSE 100 leaders, as well as the people that we all know and love in our industry, the truly great ones tend to show those qualities. It's less alpha, it's a bit more omega these days. It's not to say one is better than the other. The combination of the both is very important in terms of leadership style, in galvanizing teams, in getting the clients and making them feel that you have a shared agenda. The second to last point I talked about was looking after yourself. I think agencies are creating making very difficult for people to take care of themselves physically and emotionally. No one else will do that for you. You have to take care of yourself. Go read Arianna Huffington and thrive. I'm loving that at the moment. I aspire to one day having that sort of balance. But I think making sure that you bring perspective off the back of looking after yourself and pace yourself. It's a sprint, it's not a marathon. Do take the time out to refresh yourself and bring further energy back to what you do. And the last point I made in terms of my advice for modern account management is integrity. Obviously, it sounds very obvious, it's rare. And my point of integrity is about my word, but it's also about understanding the people ultimately our communications affect. So really have that as your North Star. There are ordinary people there whose emotions and whose behaviours you're particularly intimate, you're becoming an expert in that. Make sure you treat that with the trust it deserves, because it becomes a very strong North Star, whether you're having a difficult conversation with a creative or a client. That if that customer, if that ordinary human being at the end of your communications is your North Star, everything else becomes really simple. And in writing that list and pulling together those very strong opinions rather than science-based facts, I think what I've done is outline the brief for a CEO, really. I think, great suits become great leaders of business, and that is exemplified in if you look at the number of CEOs in agencies in London at the moment. I think 75% of them are ex-account men, and that's no accident. So I think take great courage and have conviction in what we do. It is important, and as tough as it is, and sometimes as lonely as it can be, ultimately, we're very privileged. We're in a very highly creative, very interesting, highly intelligent industry. And so, there's a real joy to what we do, but just stick with it is my advice.